guys, welcome back to another episode of Sports and Stuff. I'm here with my friend Riley Cregan. What's up, Riley?
What's up, guys?
We're coming to you on December the 28th from Goldsboro, North Carolina. We're going to get right into it today. I wanted to give you guys a heads up that we have made a Twitter for this podcast. So if you don't follow us and you're a listener, please go and follow us. We're Sports and Stuff on Twitter, and our @ is Sports and Stuff, spelled SP0RTS, the letter N, and then stuff. We would love some feedback. We'd love constructive criticism, or even if you want to DM us a topic or something that you'd like for us to talk about on the show, we would love to hear from you. So today we're going to talk about some college football. We're going to briefly talk about the NFL, and then we are going to do our first stuff segments. Sports and stuff. So far we've only done sports. We're going to get into a little bit of stuff. So let's kick it off. We're going to talk about the college football playoff. For those of you who don't know, we got number 1 Alabama playing number 4 Oklahoma, and number 2 Clemson playing number 3 Notre Dame. Riley, what's your take on these games?
Well, I guess we'll start with the 1 versus 4 matchup. Bama versus Oklahoma. I think Bama's a 14-point favorite. I don't know if that'll be exactly the score, but I do have Bama in that game. And that's just because Bama is godly and Oklahoma is a good team, but they're carried by Kyler Murray, and their defense is atrocious. Bama being the 10th ranked defense in the country and 7th total offense, versus Oklahoma, the first in total offense, but 108th in total defense in the country. That's kind of a scary statistic when you go up against the number 7th ranked offense in Bama coming into town and Tua being healthy. And I broke down their strength of schedule because I was just kind of curious who are these teams Oklahoma's playing that makes them 108th, and then what does Bama's schedule look like? I did it by looking at the average opponent totals defense, and pretty much Bama average is playing about a defense that's 50th ranked in the nation. And 7 of their 13 teams they played were top 50, 2 top 20, 1 top 10. So they got pretty good defenses that they're playing, and they're still 7th ranked in the nation. Oklahoma, only 4 of their 13 were top 50. Only 1 was top 10, and the one that was top 10 was Army. I kind of find that as a skewed statistic since Army doesn't really play many people anyways, so I'm sure it's not too hard to be top 10 in defense. No offense, Army. Support the troops. But 63rd in the nation is what they average playing against defense. And they are first in total offense, obviously, which is impressive, but they're not really playing stout defenses. And then on the flip side, Oklahoma plays about an average of a 58th ranked total offense. Only 4 in the top 50, 3 top 20, 1 top 10. And they still are 108th ranked total defense. And then Alabama averages about 54th, so not much different, but 6 are in the top 50, 5 top 20, 1 top 10, and they're still 10th in the total defense in the country. So I just kind of see Bama going in there and at least limiting that number 1 offense, and then I see Bama's offense destroying Oklahoma's weak defense. And I've heard some arguments from experts saying, hey, well, Oklahoma, they've been getting turnovers lately. Well, for the season, and they're like, okay, well, that's what's going to save them. They're going to get some turnovers, and that'll save their bad defense. Well, for the season, I think that's completely false because they are 119th in turnovers gained, Oklahoma is. And that is tied with ECU.
Ooh.
Yeah, don't want to be tied with ECU. and then Bama's 37th in turnover game. I just don't see this being a close game.
Yeah, I looked at an article that had 17 ESPN experts voting on it. Only one of those experts had Oklahoma winning. The average margin of victory predicted for Alabama was 12 points.
Yeah.
Bama's beaten 4 top 25 teams this season, and they have 2 top 5 wins in the SEC championship against Georgia, and then they shut out LSU. Oklahoma only has 2 top 25 wins, and that was Texas and West Virginia, and they lost to Texas for one of those games. So they split the series with Texas, and they beat West Virginia. They have 0 top 10 wins, and Alabama has 2 guys going in the top 10 in the NFL draft. And I think it's in April. Yep.
Yeah.
They have Quinnen Williams, their outstanding defensive end, and they have Jonah Williams, who's an outstanding offensive tackle. You know, both of them are my cousins. The Williams clan. We have a really fun Thanksgiving Day game.
Yeah. Yeah. So what round are you going in the NFL draft?
I think I'm just gonna be the agent for my guys, Quinnen and Jonah. Obviously I've been dropping dimes to them, every Thanksgiving since 1998. So when I was 1. But yeah, I think I just don't see an avenue in which Oklahoma wins this game.
I just can't see it. But personally, no spoiler alert, but I think Bama's going to win the entire thing.
Yeah.
I'd hate to, I'd love to pick an upset.
Yeah.
But certainly Oklahoma is not going to be the upset if I picked one.
Well, the thing is just, Alabama every year is a solid pick to win it. If you're going to pick it in August, most people are going to say Alabama's going to win this thing.
Yeah.
But, and I've been watching college football for a long time. I remember the BCS championship when Alabama and LSU played, and it wasn't until like the fourth quarter until LSU passed the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
I mean, the final score was like 14-3, I think, or something like that. And, this, after seeing that, I'm still willing to say that this is the most dominant Alabama team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's not their defense is always stifling.
It's their offense.
It's their offense. Yeah. Only 2 of the experts that I looked at had Alabama scoring less than 40, and both of those guys had them scoring 38. I mean, we're not used to seeing an SEC school do this, let alone Alabama.
We're not used to seeing a Alabama quarterback being in talks of next year's draft class as the number 1 quarterback off the board.
Absolutely. Who's their last good AJ
McCarron?
Yeah,
and it's like that's a game manager backup NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah, so I just don't see Alabama slipping up here. What I do see happening is a potential for Clemson to slip up. And
okay.
I think, Clemson is a really, really good team. I think they might be underrated still, and I would say they have the best defense in the country by far.
Wow.
No
Dexter Lawrence though.
No Dexter Lawrence. Notre Dame has 4 top 25 wins this season. They, a lot of people give them slack for being an independent team. I'm included in that group, but
I'm also included in that group.
They had wins against Michigan to start the season. They beat a couple top 25 teams, and Clemson only has 2 top 25 wins. Granted, I mean, we'll see. I think that Notre Dame has wiggle room. Back to the 17 expert article, only 1 person had Notre Dame winning, which I thought was kind of weird. I didn't think it would be that overwhelming. There was an 8-point average margin of victory for Clemson for those who picked them, and Clemson is without possibly their best player on the team, which is Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I looked at Notre Dame and Clemson. I looked at in terms of top 25 wins, I looked at what teams they beat that actually ended up in the top 25. Notre Dame and Clemson both only had 2 teams that ended up in the final top 25 rankings. Syracuse and Michigan for Notre Dame, Syracuse and Texas A&M for Clemson. I would say Clemson has a harder schedule from ACC, Clemson versus Notre Dame's independent. I give them slack because they usually have a pretty easy schedule. I would say they both have had very easy schedules this year because the ACC has been terrible, honestly. If I were to
Yeah,
pick
that's
a
fair.
word to like, just bad. Syracuse is the only other ranked ACC team, and they both played those teams. They both beat those teams. But really, I mean, Clemson hasn't had a hard schedule. Their hardest game was Syracuse, but and then what's next? Texas A&M after that. But then NC State is their third hardest game. I mean, no offense to NC State, but that's not anything close to a schedule that Alabama's playing. It's not even close to a schedule that Oklahoma's playing. And you're right, they could slip up. I still have Notre Dame, or sorry, I still have Clemson winning this game. But they're definitely not, in my opinion, they're not the tested Clemson team that we usually see when we get to this part of the season. They didn't even have to play any. They played Pittsburgh in their conference championship.
So
Pittsburgh beat UNC.
who you got?
I have Clemson.
You have Clemson.
I have Clemson and Bama. I have the two higher seeds going and playing in the championship in a week or so. But I could see Clemson losing, but I have them winning just because I think they have better talent. They don't have Dexter Lawrence, but their defense is still really good.
Yeah.
Their quarterback's a young star, gonna be a monster in years to come in college football. So I have them winning this game.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I think it's going to be closer than the spread. I definitely think Notre Dame's going to cover, but yeah, I don't see Clemson and Dabo with all the experience on this team in the playoff, and just I mean, it's a stifling. If you ever watch them, man, like their front seven is it's ridiculous. I mean, they have insane pass rush. Their linebackers can cover. They know how to play the run. You're not getting off any kind of like trick plays on them. They're so disciplined. I think defense is the name of the game in this one, whereas Alabama and Oklahoma is probably going to be more of a shootout. But yeah, I'm gonna take Clemson and Alabama as well. So what do you think about there only being 4 teams? I know this is a pretty hot topic in college football.
Yep.
Is expanding the playoff.
Brought up every year, every single college football playoff. The fifth team's going to be angry, and you're going to start getting questions about why don't we expand to 8 so these teams that seem deserving, like a Georgia this year, seem deserving to be in the mix in this college football playoff and get left out. Should we expand it to 8? I kind of look. I know you have extensive research on this, being that your major prompted you to write a paper and do some extensive research on this subject.
Right.
So I'm sure you have more to say and a little more backed up and research than I do. But I looked at it as first. I just looked at, okay, here's the top 4, and we've had 5. This is the 5th year that we've had the college football playoff. What teams have been in that top 4? Alabama's been all 5 times. Clemson's been 4 of the 5. Ohio State's been twice. Oklahoma's been 3 times. And then Notre Dame, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Michigan State, Georgia, all have been 1 time. Every single one of those are Power 5 conferences. So if you're going, it really depends what your argument is for the 18 playoff. If your argument is to include non-Power 5 teams, then I don't really think that argument is very strong. Because if we look at 5 through 8, there has only been 1 team that has been ranked top 8 outside of Power 5 before the bowl games. So when they would actually have looked at the rankings and ranked those teams in that top 8, hypothetically, there's only been 1 team outside of Power 5 that's actually been in that ranking. That's UCF this year. So I don't really think if you expand it to 8 that you're really going to see a lot of non-Power 5 getting bids, because there's only been 1 time. Now there's been 2 teams, and only 2 teams after in the final standings that's actually been in the top 8. But if your argument, and then you could look at, well, what if you do 16 playoff teams? Because that's another argument. Well, maybe if you do 16, you can include more Power 5 or non-Power 5. That's not really going to do much either. There's only been 4 total non-Power 5 schools in the top 16 before bowl games. I just don't think expanding the playoff, if your goal is to include more Power 5 teams, yeah, it might include 1, maybe 2, but it's just not going to significantly get these like non-Power 5 schools in my opinion. Especially since 4 of the 5 years you wouldn't even had one in there anyways. But if your argument is for competitive balance, I think you have a stronger argument. Because there's way more turnover in 5 through 8 than there is in 1 through 4 in college football. The top 4, most repeats in 5 through 8 year to year. The past 5 years has been 1. There's only been 1 team year to year that actually stays in the 5 between 5 and 8. For top 4, twice there's been 3 of the 4 returning, and then every year there's been at least 2 returning year to year. So that means almost every year, aside from the one time Clemson didn't make it, I think that was the first year, you're going to have at least 2 teams every single time, and so 50% of your playoff is the same. So yes, if you expand it to 8, where you only have 1 repeat in that 5 through 8, your competitive balance should theoretically go up because you're just going to have a lot of different teams in the mix. So you should have not the same champion every single year, or your odds should go down for that at least. That's kind of where I am. I don't think there's an argument for non-Power 5. I think there's an argument for competitive balance.
Okay. So before the first playoff game was ever played, ACC Commissioner John Swofford, he's a good guy, one of the best commissioners in college athletics, said there should be an 18 playoff. And the reason being for him is that fringe teams will be unhappy and all Power 5 conferences would not be represented. I think that is that is a great synopsis for the disdain for the 14 playoff. It is beyond me why they would set it up that way. In college basketball, granted it's a less physically demanding sport, we have, representatives from the MAC, we have representatives from Mountain West, but yeah, this year we don't have a representative from the Pac-12.
Yeah. Just let me before you, because I know you have a lot to say. I'm kind of Mike Leach when it comes to playoffs. I want a big playoff. I want like a 32 team, 16 team.
Yeah, he says 64.
Yeah, he says 64. I'm not sure if I'm 64, but I want like 32 or 16 team playoff in there, because that's just, you'll find out who the better team is more often through that versus just 2 games. And is it really that different than a BCS when you have 4 versus 2 teams?
Right. So there, like Riley said, there's disagreement as to where the extra 4 teams would, advocates of an 18 playoff seem to agree that there should be a representative from all Power 5 conferences. Every champion should make the playoff. There is disagreement as to where the other 3 teams would come from. Some say it should be 3 at-large teams. The next 3 best teams should make the playoff. Others say that it should be a Power 5 champion and then 2 at-large teams. I am on the side of saying 3 at-large teams, because if I think that, UCF last year and UCF this year, if it was 8 teams, they should make the playoff. They're undefeated. They've run the gauntlet, and they've done so in convincing fashion. Even with UCF losing their starting quarterback, they're still, playing very good football. And you look at last year, they went and beat the hell out of Auburn in their bowl game.
But one thing on UCF last year, though, is the committee. While I agree they should have been in there, the committee didn't have them ranked top 8.
Yeah, that's true.
Not even close. I think they were like 15. going into the college when they rank the college football player before the bowl games. So how are you going to rank a team like that into the top 8? How are they going to get into the top
Yeah,
8?
well, that's because the committee is looking at strength of schedule over conference championships, and in this proposed model, conference championships are the most, they're the biggest piece of your resume. Obviously strength of schedule is big, but when you're an undefeated team that has done so in convincing fashion, like UCF did last year, I mean, when you're not, I'm not saying that UCF should make it if they're getting by, they're skating on the skin of their teeth against ECU and teams like that, but when they're dominating and, they're putting up big numbers and their defense is flying around. I mean, they were one of the best 8 teams in football last year.
Yes,
I agree.
absolutely.
Anyway, so an 18 playoff model fits very well into the college football calendar, so it's feasible. The first round could be played earlier to finish up on the typical New Year's Eve week, or it could be scheduled so the semifinals to be New Year's Bowls and have the championships 2 weeks later. Both of these proposed calendars give plenty of time before National Signing Day in early February. Mid-major teams that pass the eye test like the 2017 UCF team will have an opportunity to prove themselves. Just like with the BCS, the argument is that there are plenty of good teams who could beat anyone, but they aren't given a chance. An early season loss, like a loss to South Carolina in the SEC, could cost a team a spot in the playoffs in the current model. I think that that's sort of ridiculous that a loss in August is going to cost you something in January.
Ohio State's lost to Purdue.
Right.
Cost them.
There you go. Expanding the playoff would give Division I college football a consistent postseason with every other form of football there is. The NFL has 12 teams. Division II and Division III have their own playoff system. And high school has varying numbers that get as high as 5 rounds of playoffs. Only having 4 teams vying for a championship makes the championship questionable because they didn't have to go through the gauntlet to get there.
Exactly.
I don't think. I mean, it's the same complaint as there was with the BCS national championship. Besides from the computers are deciding who the national champion is. I mean, this is a group of 13 people saying these are the best 4 teams, and more times than not, there's no upsets. It's 2 weeks, and it's just. I mean, look, Riley and I played 8-man football in my senior year of high school. I transferred to a private school, and we played 8-man football there, and I really valued a state championship before I got there. And once I got there and I saw that it was a 3-round playoff, and the first round was us beating the shit out of somebody by 50, and then the second round was us beating the shit out of somebody by 20, and then we played a good team. And then I go back the next year and I watch our high school team, cruise through a three-game playoff, and the next year cruise through a 3-game playoff. Like, there was no challenge there. We could have played. We had the team to play 11-man football, and we weren't. What I mean by this is we're costing. We're losing competitiveness, and only having 4 teams represented. We're costing ourselves, or the NCAA and the conferences are costing themselves millions of dollars by not letting people in. To speak to that, adding 4 more games to a typical TV schedule would make more money for all of them. There's a $470 million a year contract to broadcast the 3 games with ESPN. If you doubled that, you're looking at about $1 billion in revenue. And this isn't NCAA money. This is conference money. And if you're cutting that up between 8 teams and UCF makes that, the difference for the American Conference getting 1/8 of $1 billion, that's massive for that conference.
And to give you an idea, there's the vast majority of college football Division I schools do not make profits. on a year-to-year basis. It's only the top Alabama type schools that make profits. So an increase in revenue like that could go a long way in strengthening programs across the country, and like Adam says, eventually increasing competitive balance.
And if I may make a case against the 18 playoff, and I'm as a sports fan, as someone who likes to watch, I am all for 8 teams. I'm all for 16 teams. I could be talked into 32 teams. But as someone who is very for player safety, I'm not sure that I'm for expanding the season because these athletes are not compensated. They would be forced to play another or 2 more games, risking their health for the profit of the schools that they don't see the return from. Ben Boulware from Clemson. He was the 2016 MVP of the national championship game. He said, if we had to play another game like this, God no, I'd literally die. It's not in the athlete's best interest to play another game. There are head trauma lawsuits all over the place, and this would just put a magnifying glass over that. There are other arguments to say tradition says in college football that regular season rules supreme. I don't disagree with that. Every year, the regular season is what matters. It's not like basketball. It's not like pro football where you can make a push and win it all. You have to be dominant. They're asking for perfection. Week 1 to week 12, is it? Week 14? How many games they play?
13.
13 games.
Well,
I was right in the middle.
12, 13 if you're a conference championship.
Okay. Well, they're demanding excellence for 12 to 13 weeks. And adding a Cinderella effect to college football ruins college football. That's what some say. There are some who say that ESPN is not willing to go for an expanded playoff. They don't have the money to pay for it. The 4-team structure is working well from a financial standpoint, and investing twice as much money into an 8-team playoff might not be something that they're willing to do. And there are many who say that an 8-team playoff won't fix anything at all. Just like with the 4-team model, the 8-team model will give fringe teams claiming they should have been in the top 8, and politics got in the way of their glory. Number 9 would say, we should have been in the top 8. Number 10, we should have been in the top 8. And that's going to continue. You have 16, number 17, 18, and 19 are going to say, what the hell? We deserve a chance. So does adding the playoff expand, just adding girth to the football season, or is it actually enhancing the sport? I don't know the answer to that. I think all of those are valid points. I think the second that these conferences feel like they're needing money, like if a judge rules that these college athletes need to be paid, I'll bet you within 2 years that the 18 playoff, 16-team playoff is there because they need the money. And they can find money when they need it.
Yeah. So those are all very good points. I think that's the real argument against a bigger playoff is would it not just be the same problems that we're running into with the 14 playoff, and is it in the players' best interest, especially since they are not compensated aside from a $40,000 scholarship, right? So the way I look at it, yes, from a fan, I'd love to see a bigger playoff. I think also a bigger playoff would make the committee, I think it's easier to rule on a top 8 or a top 16 than it is a top 4. I think it's easier to say, okay, well, maybe they're not the 4th, but they're the 5th. And obviously, when you got to like 15 or 16 or 16 or 17, it'd be a little difficult. But I view it as a lot easier to say, hey, they're a top or a lot harder to say, hey, they're a top 4 team in the nation, and say, hey, yeah, they deserve to be in the top 16 or top 8. That being said, I really don't think 8 would solve any problems. I don't think it would get that much more diversity within the Power 5. I don't think it would get really any teams outside of the Power 5 except for maybe like a UCF once every 4 years or something like that. I think it would increase a little bit of competitive balance just because you'd have different teams in the mix. You'd have just higher chances by definition of teams losing, of a number 1 seed losing, or 2 or 3 or 4. Player safety wise, the bigger it gets, the worse it gets for that, obviously. So I don't think an 8 solves the problems the problems that you really want to be solved. In terms of diversity in Power 5, outside of Power 5, I think competitive balance goes up a little bit. But I think you had to go to 16 to really solve those problems, and then the major player safety concern comes into play because you got 16 teams playing at least one more game, and you got a potential of 2 teams playing, what was that, 4 extra games?
Yeah. So Alabama and another team are going to play 4 extra games.
Yeah. And that's a lot of future NFL talent put at risk there.
Yeah, and people sit already for their bowl games.
Yeah.
I don't think it's far-fetched to think that guys would sit for this playoff.
For like a 16, 15 seed team would sit.
Yeah.
Bama's players could sit in like the first round and be like, oh, they don't need me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Alabama, man, they're the real deal. We want to talk about their recruiting dominance, okay? So since 2010 and through 2020, they have, of those 10 years, they have the number 1 recruiting class in 9 years out of that, excluding 2018 when they were a measly number 5, according to
Scrubs.
according to 24/7 Sports. According to an article from 24/7 Sports from 2017, so this is speaking from 2017, the last 7 years, so 2010 to 2017, 33 out of 223 potential 5-star players went to Alabama. That's 1 in every 7. That means 6 athletes, 6 5-star guys were left to the other 127 football teams in the country. If the star was from either Alabama or Florida, which are 2 of the 7 most producing states of football talent, they had a 40.5% chance of landing that 5-star athlete.
Wow.
Those are just. Do you have any more numbers to speak to their dominance?
I don't really have numbers. I have kind of reasons of why we see that, and that's really because we wrote down on this and we were like, is it fair? Is it fair that 40.5% of Bama getting those kind of numbers with those recruits? Is that really fair? And under the current rules, yes, it's not like they're breaking any rules.
Right.
But the rules are set up to make Bama and other schools just be perennial recruiting powerhouses.
Right. Well, college football is built like capitalism.
Yeah.
It's and we're seeing that wage gap from the wealthy to the poor.
Yeah. And the bigger schools, because they do actually split up, like conferences get even amount of payouts. So Bama and the SEC gets the same. They take a payout for the SEC, whatever amount of money they made that year, and they split it up across all the SEC schools. So they get the same amount of money, but the margin, their profit margins are so much bigger than these other schools. And that's just because they're a bigger school, and then they always win, and they're able to actually make a profit. And like I mentioned earlier, a majority of schools don't make a profit. So they make a profit, and they're able to put that back into their program which creates more scholarship, more people hired for solely recruiting athletes, which leads to better athletes, better teams, and it leads to them winning again and then getting again a lot more money and a higher profit margin, and it just continues and continues and continues. So how do you fix that if you want to fix that? And there's only a few ways to do that. You could limit scholarships per school, but then you're starting to hurt athletes if you do that. If you start limiting,
Well, you'd have to cut down on scholarships because they are limited.
well, right, you'd have to cut down the limit. But like I'm saying, per school, because right now it's like what 85. Then what I would prefer would be more of limiting star players. We're limiting, like, hey, Bama can only have X amount of 5 stars. Not Bama, but every team can only have X amount of 5 stars or 4 stars. I'm not sure if that's fair to Bama, who built a program like that.
I disagree with that point. The reason that college football is there, per mission statement, is to educate and assist the athletes. And limiting who can go to Alabama and who can go to A&M and LSU and Clemson, will that provide competitive equity? Yes. But you're stripping athletes of the experience of going to Alabama. Are you going to say that Harvard can only have so many 4.0 GPA students?
Right.
Because they're going there to learn, just like these guys are going there to learn. You can't say that you can only have so many good players. I think that is completely fair. The only person whose fault it is that Alabama is so good is LSU's. It's Georgia's. It's Texas A&M's. It's Florida's. It's Kentucky's. It's Vanderbilt's. If you don't want Alabama to be so good, you be good. They are from the same conference. Kentucky had Bear Bryant. Kentucky could have promoted Bear Bryant. Bear Bryant could have built up Kentucky. And Kentucky could be the dominant one. But they didn't, and so they aren't. It is a complete capitalist society in college football. And just like in capitalism, the person who works the hardest and makes the best decisions is the dominant one. If you do want competitive equity and you want to find a fair way to do it, this is how you do it. You pay the players. That's the only way that you're going to get competitive equity. Because, and the reason being, is these teams that have so much money, and obviously you're going to have to cap this salary, okay? You're going to have a set number, and everyone's going to be able to pay it. But when their 5-star cap runs out, when they say, okay, we've got our 10 5-stars in this class, who we say that we can pay them $200,000 or whatever, and then there's a 6th, 7th, 8th 5-star who wants to go to Alabama, but oh, sorry, you can't have this $200,000. You're gonna have to take the 4-star salary or the 3-star salary. They're gonna say, no, fuck that. I'm gonna go play for Auburn, or I'm gonna go play for, if I want to stay in state, I'm gonna go play for Alabama State, maybe, And this is where the competitive equity comes in. And not to mention the teams that are building this wealth, like Clemson and Alabama, they're investing money in their players, but the way they're doing it is they're putting water slides in their locker rooms. They're putting laser tag and putt-putt and waterfalls in their locker rooms. And if I'm an 18-year-old kid, I'm a 21-year-old man, and they say, okay, you can come to Carolina where we have Jordan brand things and we have a big light in our locker room, or you can come to Clemson where we're gonna give you all day passes to a buffet, and we're gonna give you laser tag anytime you want it. And it's like, hell yeah, sign me up. That's so cool, and it is cool. But that teams can't afford that. But I'm telling you, if they have a set salary that they can pay these guys, they're gonna find that money to do that.
I gotta disagree with I agree with all of those points except for the last point, that paying players would increase competitive. maybe among the bigger schools, but there's no way that a smaller school team is going to be able to pay a 50. I mean, I guess they won't play like maybe 25. I don't know how you set that up. How many players are you playing? You're playing the walk-ons that barely make the team. Or are you paying them too? Are you paying only the players that would get scholarships? Or how do you decide that? Whatever. I don't think there's a way that some of these smaller schools would be able to even with a salary cap, would even come close to what Alabama or any SEC school team, any Clemson team would be able to pay players. And I think even with a salary cap, you'd start to see a no salary cap effect of baseball take place where these huge schools will be able to pay and afford way more money per player. And you'd still have dominant teams. You might have more like Bama teams in the SEC fighting it out, but I think the gap between an SEC conference and like a Pac-12 conference or a smaller conference would start to increase. Just because I don't see a way that these smaller schools can afford to pay athletes while still paying and giving scholarships for academic reasons and putting money into their academic programs. How are they going to be able to do that while paying 30 football players?
Well, I think the solution here is that you don't expect them to pay. You don't expect ECU to pay as much as Alabama's paying, but the reason that it works is that players are going to choose. In theory, players choose where they can make the most money, and players that get recruited by Alabama but have to go in a lower pay scale, and they can make marginally more money at a lower school. The argument is that they would take the pay increase. And granted, like no 5-star in their right mind is going to choose ECU over Alabama. And I'm willing to bet that if professional athletes got to choose, no one in their right mind is going to play for the Buffalo Bills over playing for the New England Patriots,
Right.
or the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when there's never going to be completely competitive balance unless there is a governing body that places athletes at a certain place.
Right.
But when we say we're working towards competitive equity and we're working towards, equality for everyone, I think the first step is having a tiered pay system for certain caliber athletes. And it's possible that their pay scale moves as their college career progresses. Are you a 2-star when you come in and then you become an All-American? Are you a 5-star when you come in, but then, you're failing your classes and you're not starting? That should affect your pay.
Right.
And, it's a long road that there is to travel, but I think that's the system that we're going to eventually see, is a tiered system for caliber athletes coming out of high school. Or else someone else is going to swoop in and they're going to create something where athletes can be paid and not have to, risk their kneecaps for the chance to play in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I agree that athletes should be paid. I just don't see how that helps smaller schools competitively wise. I think it helps the athletes. I think it should be implemented. I still think that if that's created, schools, like you said, are going to find ways to find money. And the only way they do that is they're going to have to start cutting something. And then all of a sudden academics start to get cut. And whether that's okay, that's the school's decision. But there has to be some kind of cut because, like I said, there's still the vast majority of teams are not making profits.
Right.
So how are they going to pay these players when they're not even making profits? Right?
And you might be right that an ECU, regardless of what happens, is never going to compete with an Alabama. But if we can make it to where a Vanderbilt is competing with an Alabama, does that not make competitive equity excuse me, does that not make competitive equity more accessible? Like, just because not everyone gets there, more people are getting there that's closer to competitive equity than we are now. We have Alabama. I mean, it's essentially the Warriors and the Cavs of years past with Alabama and Clemson. I mean, Alabama's made it to all 5 playoffs. Clemson made it to 4, I think.
I think it increases competitive balance at the top, which is good. But I think it increases your differential between teams like Houston, who's been in the top 25 every couple times, and a team like Alabama or a team like Clemson in the SEC school.
And there would be following consequences. And you're probably right. Would it create a wage gap? Yes. Between Power 5 and Group of 5 or Group of 6 teams, maybe. But I think that's a problem that needs to be dealt with later. Personally.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do a quick. Really, the only game from last week we wanted to talk about in the NFL was Seattle and Kansas City, and this was your thing. My thing with Seattle is they put up 38 points, which is the second most they have all season.
Right.
41 against San Francisco is their first most. I'm surprised at how well they handled Kansas City. Kansas City only put up 31, which for them is not that impressive. Pete Carroll got an extension after the game. Go Pete. Their defense is playing great. They have the best run game in the league still. And they're hot at the right time going into the playoffs. We've seen it. We saw it in 2007. We saw it in 2010.
Hawks, baby.
I think Kansas City is still fine. They're playing a Raiders team that's actually not playing bad football as of late. They've won 2 of the last 3 games against Riley's Steelers and against the Broncos.
Backup quarterback.
But yeah, they're going into Oakland, and they need a win this week. If they don't win, look for an early exit.
Yeah, if they blow it, if Kansas City blows against the Raiders, then that would be kind of fitting because it is Andy Reid. But I don't think that will happen. My thing with this game is I just kind of wanted to say, hey, I told you about the Hawks. I told you.
I'm still not convinced.
They are an underrated team
That's
that
fair.
nobody was talking about 2 weeks ago that can easily make a run in the NFL this year. There is no dominant team in the NFL, in my opinion. Everybody has their weak spots. The most dominant team you could argue is the Saints, and they looked terrible against the Cowboys. They looked terrible against the Buccaneers. They looked terrible against the Panthers. They won 2 of those 3, but they looked terrible in 2 of those. They arguably, if the Steelers hadn't fumbled it twice, did a fake punt or whatever last week, they might have lost that game. Could have easily lost that game at home, and that's the whole argument that they're unbeatable at home, right? Anyways, there's not a dominant team. Seattle's hot. Russell Wilson outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Same exact stat line, essentially 271 yards for Russell, 273 yards for Pat. Each had 3 touchdowns. Russell had more rushing yards, and like I mentioned last week, per attempt, Russell had 9.3 yards per attempt. Pat had 6.8.
Wow.
He outplayed him, and on top of that, they had 210 rushing yards. Seattle did.
And 2 touchdowns.
And 2 touchdowns, and rushing yards for Kansas City, 154, still pretty good.
Yeah, 154 without Kareem Hunt.
Without Kareem Hunt, yeah. If they had Kareem Hunt,
Spencer Ware was
maybe a
back.
different game. But Kansas City's a similar team to the Rams, very similar team to the Rams. Seattle could see them in the playoffs. I just think Andy Reid's a little lucky right now that the Chargers lost to the Ravens last week. And all I'm saying is that the Seahawks are going to see teams like the Rams, teams like the Bears, who can't really even score, really plays in Seattle's favor too, even strong defense. But I'm just saying they're on the road to the Super Bowl, boys.
Hawks to the bowl.
Hawks to the bowl.
You heard it here first. Updated playoff picture. In my opinion, the NFC 1 and 2 are completely locked up. The Saints are going to be playing third-string quarterback in Carolina. The Rams are playing the 49ers, although the 49ers aren't as bad as we thought. Rams are going to take them easily, in my opinion. The Bears and Vikings. That's a huge game for old
Go
Eagles.
Bears, baby.
We need Mitchell Trubiscuits to go in and beat the Vikings, and the Eagles to win versus the Skins, so the Eagles can get in and spread their wings once again. Nick Foles can lead them to another Super Bowl.
Right. You got Ravens going in, or you got Steelers going in?
That it's gonna be interesting. I don't want to make a prediction. I'm gonna be honest with you, because the Steelers' fate lays in the hands of Baker Mayfield.
The Baker.
I love Baker. He's a winner. But I would call Baltimore the AFC Seattle, because they are playing great ball right now. Their defense is
Seattle.
playing so well. They might have the best secondary in the league.
They can't be Seattle if they're not in the playoffs. So come on, Baker.
If they beat the Browns, they're in. I'm gonna say they're gonna win, and sorry, Steelers. I'll pick Baltimore.
No, that's a smart pick.
And then Colts and Titans are playing for their fate, and I'm going with old Andy Luck in there.
Me too. I have Colts. I have Eagles. I have the Bears beating the Vikes. I have the Eagles beating the Skins and sneaking in there at number 6.
Very little bias coming from Riley.
Oh, we've got hard bias here. And then, like I said, smart pick is the Ravens beating the Browns. Smart pick, intelligent pick, good researching podcaster, extraordinary pick. But the right pick is the Steelers making it into the playoffs. The Browns coming out of nowhere and beating the Ravens, and the team that could have been the crazy good defense with a Lamar Jackson.
Beat the Bengals.
Oh, come on. We're favored by 16 points.
Okay, whatever.
We're playing, who the hell is that? Driscoll's. Okay, if the Steelers lose to the Bengals, then fire Mike Tomlin. Fire everybody. Just get a new team if they lose to the Bengals. The Bengals are terrible. And their playoff hopes are on the line. That would be very embarrassing. I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't, but I'm just saying the right pick is the Browns coming out of nowhere, the Steelers beating the Bengals, getting in with a home playoff game, and making some noise in the playoffs.
How deep do the Steelers have to go in the playoffs for you to get a Baker Mayfield jersey?
If the Steelers go to the AFC Championship, I will get a Baker Mayfield jersey. Yeah. Antonio Brown tweeted out a picture of his jersey and with an S at the end, and said, "Everyone wear their Browns jerseys." And I'm 100% gonna do that.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
actually.
no, it's funny.
That's funny. Okay.
Hey, the Ravens last year had a win-in game against the Bengals.
It's a different Bengals team,
and we knew what
but
happened.
The Browns are better. I swear, man. I wish the Browns are making the playoffs next year. Hot take.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so that does it for sports. Okay, we're gonna, we're a little over time, but we're gonna go ahead and do this stuff. So this is sports and stuff, and the reason I wanted to do stuff and full disclosure is because we weren't sure that Riley was gonna be here for every episode. So I said I might as well call it and stuff, so someone else can talk, and if they don't want to talk about sports, we'll talk about something else.
Stuff.
But as the title promises, we're going to talk about some stuff. Okay.
What kind of stuff do you want to talk about?
So, full disclosure again, the way that we're approaching this is we have we crafted main topics, and those main topics are food and females, the two things we love the most.
Double Fs.
And we each made subtopics in those topics to bring up, and neither of us know what the other one said. So we're gonna start with food. Okay, Riley, I want you to tell me and at least give me like a top 3 of the best fast food French fries in the game.
Number 1, Arby's.
Oh hell no!
What?
Are you serious?
Yes. Number 1, Arby's. Out of the park. Arby's.
Oh my god.
Number 2.
All right, podcast over.
Number 2.
Arby's.
Bojangles.
Who says Arby's?
Dude, when's the last time you've eaten at Arby's?
Dude, I don't know. I don't eat at Arby's.
Exactly. Then you don't know how good their French fries
I've had
are.
their French fries, man. You
When?
eat like 10 of them, and then they taste gross.
That's so
They have
incorrect.
Such a weird taste in your mouth.
Well, hold on. Let me get to 3.
You're so child. You just like the shape.
I don't.
The
I like
curly
the
fries.
taste. And number 3, I would have to go with. I'm thinking Chick-fil-A. I'm thinking Wendy's. I'll give it to Wendy's. We're gonna go Arby's, Bojangles, Wendy's. Hot take: top 3 French fries. You heard it here first. Go try it.
Okay. First of all, Arby's is wrong. Bojangles is right. Bojangles is the best French fry in the game.
Incorrect.
You got to get extra Cajun seasoning on those hoes, though. Those things are so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely great. Just not better than Arby's.
Next, you go Chick-fil-A. Obviously, the best ones are the ones with the peel, still the end piece.
They're just too. They're like. See, you talking about shape. You like Chick-fil-A because they're shape, because they're a waffle.
I don't even like waffles.
Well, you like waffle fries. They have no seasoning on them. They're plain.
But Chick-fil-A has the best dipping sauce.
Well, yeah.
You get some Polynesian.
Are we talking
or some
about? Are we talking
Chick-fil-A.
about sauce? Or are we talking about French fries?
But French fries go with the sauce. It's just like, is the fry that good at Bojangles, or is it the Cajun seasoning that goes on the fries?
But that's part of the fry. The sauce isn't part of the fry.
And they have a more potato-y fry at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
When you get that end piece with the skin that's still on it, that's the best fry.
That's a good fry.
And then I'll go with Wendy's with the sea salt.
Yeah.
And they have like they're kind of thick with the skin on the end also. I can't believe you said Arby's.
I can believe it because I ate an Arby fry yesterday, just one, and it was amazing.
Wow. Well, that's how they go. You can eat one and you're like, wow, that was really good. But then you eat 4 or 5 and you say, okay, I'm tired.
All right, full disclosure, I don't really eat fast food very often, so I don't know if I'm the best person to rate this stuff. No, I'm not. But I still believe
the French fries aren't even the best side at Arby's. The potato cakes,
I've never had Arby's potato cake.
They're better. That's what you need to try.
Arby's French fries. Go! I want y'all to go out, get some Bojangles French fries, get some Arby's French fries, and tell me which ones are better.
It's Bojangles, and you gotta if you live in the western part of the state, just piss off. You need to go to the eastern part of the state, get the Dijon honey mustard at Bojangles.
See, I think you care more about the sauce than the fry. When I'm ranking French fries, I rank the fry, not the sauce.
Well,
but that's
okay. Tell me this: do you eat French fries without the sauce?
Yeah, sometimes.
All right. Well,
sometimes.
Your opinion.
I mean, but buffalo sauce is usually what I eat every time.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I love hot stuff. I'm just gonna. I'm a weird eater. I'm an independent thinker. I'm not just gonna be independent thing. I'm not gonna jump on the train. Okay.
I eat buffalo sauce on everything. I'm an independent thinker.
We gotta go to the next topic.
Okay.
Here. Okay. Here's one for you, Adam. Cookout. I want you to rate it 1 through 10. I want you to tell me if it's under or overrated or rated appropriately.
I'm going with overrated for Cookout.
I agree.
I feel like I'm in the minority here, but their prices are excellent. Their options are excellent. Their quality of food is not that great.
Not at all.
And their milkshakes, which is supposed to be like the Cookout thing, are not good.
They're not even better. They're not even close to Chick-fil-A's.
Chick-fil-A's milkshakes are the best.
Yeah.
If you have never had a Chick-fil-A peppermint milkshake, you haven't lived. Those are the best milkshakes I've ever had from a restaurant.
Except cookies and cream are better.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, Cookout milkshakes, you have to eat them with a spoon. They're not even a milkshake. It's just a cup of ice cream.
I know, exactly.
It's basically a worse blizzard.
Is it a milkshake if you can't even sip it through the straw?
It's a blizzard from Dairy Queen, but worse.
I also agree. Cookout is overrated. And also what you didn't mention is the feeling you have after you eat Cookout.
When you're dead.
Yes.
Yeah. The only way to eat Cookout is when you're really drunk and you eat it before you go to bed.
Yes.
Because you don't have to stay awake to feel how bad you feel.
Yeah. Then you just wake up the next morning and you make a trip to the bathroom.
Exactly.
But that's not just because of the Cookout. It's also because of the immense amount of alcohol you drink the night before.
Okay. Well, tell me, what is the most underrated alcoholic beverage in your opinion?
Oh, speaking of alcohol. Okay. Wow. That's tough. Most underrated alcoholic beverage. Okay, when we say beverage, Are we talking about? Can it be anything with
It can
alcohol?
be anything with alcohol. It can be cocktails. It can be, beers.
Okay, well I got one. It's just my favorite one that no one really else likes.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if it's a beverage. I'm not sure if it's a shot. I drink it as both. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Have you ever had it?
I know you've had it.
Yes.
I've heard stories about Riley and the cinnamon toast crunch shots.
It's rum chata and Fireball. That's it. Shout out to my man Josh Merrill if he listens. We just drink rum chata Fireball all the time. It's amazing. You got to try it. It's a best winter drink ever. Best winter alcoholic drink ever.
And it's a shot.
It can be a shot, or you can make it as a drink.
Okay, we're gonna have one of those when we get back to school.
Okay. Gotta have it in the winter though.
I have two that I've been thinking of for most underrated alcoholic beverage, and one is just my favorite drink, and I don't think it gets enough credit, and that's just straight gin, man. I'm a big gin guy.
Christmas trees.
It's really good, and the good thing about it is bottom shelf gin is still good. I pay $7 for some Seagrams, and it's delicious. But then you go up the shelves and you get some Hendrix or you get some Mother Earth. Shout out to Kinston.
K-Town.
And it's so good. My sister got me some Mother Earth gin for Christmas, and I am looking forward to putting it in my belly.
Well, I'm happy for you.
All right, thanks. Oh, and the other one is Bailey's coffee. If you get some Bailey's Irish cream.
Oh my God. I don't like coffee, but also an interesting fact about me, I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee. But Bailey's Irish cream is amazing.
Yeah.
I could probably drink coffee and have Bailey's Irish cream.
Me and my roommate Neil, shout out to Neil again. He got shouted out on the last episode.
Great guy.
Shout out. He's a solid lad. We love making espresso with Bailey's Irish cream in it. And it is, it really makes me happy to drink it. It just, this one's for Neil. It just gives you that, damn feeling,
Or you could do a non-coffee drinkers alternative, Bailey's Irish cream with hot chocolate. Very good.
Man, Riley, I'm learning some things about you. All right, what's your second food thing, man?
Okay, so smoothies and shakes versus solid food. What do you prefer? What are your ideas?
Look at me. Look at you. Think I prefer shakes?
I mean, we drank a shake before this episode.
Yeah, that's because there was no solid food. I literally shut up and said, we didn't have anything to eat. Can I have a shake?
But, I mean, I'm not... Obviously, most people prefer solid food. I'm just saying, give me your opinion of smoothies versus shakes. And when... Do you ever prefer a shake over solid food?
In dessert form. Milkshake is, like, my favorite dessert. And after a workout, I don't like eating.
Okay.
Like solid food.
Okay.
I do prefer a shake after I work out.
Okay.
But and maybe an occasional morning fruit smoothie is nice, but if it's lunch or dinner, yeah, I'm eating food.
Right. I Smoothie King, big Smoothie King guy.
Those things are expensive.
Those are. Don't go there a lot, but when I do, Fridays, $5 Fridays for like a 32-ouncer.
I didn't know that existed. Maybe I'll have to go.
Yeah. But no, I mean, solid food's still way better. I just think smoothies and shakes are starting to, at least in my life, starting to make more of appearances than they did about a year or two ago. I mean, aside from just a protein shake working out.
Okay.
Yeah, just I'm drinking more smoothies now, guys. Just letting you know. Not sure what that says about me, but it's happening.
He's a health nut who puts buffalo sauce on everything, hates coffee, and prefers smoothies over solid food.
I didn't say I preferred smoothies. All right, taking it out of context. Okay, now we're going to go to the next subject. Females. We both have extraordinary females in our lives.
Oh, yes. The most extraordinary.
Yes.
Shout out to our females.
Shout out to our females.
Yep.
I guess we won't name names.
I mean, you can if you want. Yeah, shout out.
Shout out Rachel Jones.
Yeah,
beautiful girlfriend.
Shout out to Layla, beautiful girlfriend.
Hey.
Just kidding, Rachel. You're beautiful too.
Layla, y'all are both equally beautiful, both on the outside and the inside.
We love you.
We love you. Okay. Females. Do you want to start or you want me to start?
That doesn't matter, man.
All right, well, then I'll start.
Okay.
Give me your take on female friendships.
They are the most complicated things of all time.
Yes.
Like, best friends will, everybody has a problem with everybody, I feel like.
Yeah.
And, speaking as a guy, there are a few guys who I don't like. And those guys, I just do not mess with them.
Yeah.
Like, if I see them, I don't talk to them.
Which is, can be argued that that's a logical way to do that.
Could be argued. A flaw in that is I'm not trying to rekindle any friendships with people that I don't like or who have wronged me in a way that I feel is excessive. And I feel like females and women, they will have best friends that they can't stand, or they have friends who wrong them, and instead of addressing the issue, will take some backwards way to like tell other people, and those other people tell girls, and like it just becomes this entire thing when it's the simple solution is going up to that friend and saying, hey, you did this and it hurt my feelings, or I didn't really like it. Let's talk about it and let's build this friendship.
Yeah, I think there are some beautiful female friendships out there that
Absolutely.
are amazing. However, I think there's a lot of female friendships that lack one thing. There's only one thing, and you alluded to it, that makes it problematic sometimes, and that's just communication. They just they don't communicate with each other. They communicate with others to complain about the other person.
Right.
And then the other person complains about them once they hear about that they were complaining about them.
Right.
And then they never talk to each other. Then when they see each other, they're like, hey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch.
It hurts when you know the inside information. And as before April, I was a single man for a while, and I really didn't know too much about the inside information. But now that I have a girlfriend, and not just her and her friendships, but also her friends and their friendships and what they talk about, I know more about the inside relations and who really feels what about others.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Yep.
it's cool to know more, but it's also like, I wish I didn't know as much as I did.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think, this is off topic, but I was reading about male-female friendships. And what's your take on male-female friendships?
I think, well, the big argument there is like you can't be. Some people say you can't have a friend that's opposite sex if it's not sexual or whatever.
Right.
I think that's not true at all. I think you can have a friend that's the opposite sex and y'all just are, like it's just like you have a friend that's just like a bro, I guess.
Yeah.
As a female, and then a female has a friend that's like a girl. I don't know, like a guy friend that's like you could just kind of talk about and then talk with each other about it, but you really have no sexual attraction to each other. I think that's definitely possible, and I think those are great relationships.
Yep. And I think the only context in which this matters is in the context of a romantic relationship. Like me and my girlfriend, is it okay for her to have a guy or a guy friend? And is it okay for me to have a female friend?
Right.
And I think this is where it's like a respect thing. Like I know that I have like a sense about other guys that are like trying to talk to Layla and like they want to be friends, and I can, I think I have a sense of their intentions. And I think Layla has the same, kind of radar for females trying to talk to me.
Right.
And I think it's kind of respecting, like, it's completely controlling and ridiculous for someone to say, you can't have guy friends or you can't have girlfriends.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a respect thing when it says, I don't like this girl. I don't think you should hang out with this girl.
Yeah, and then you respect that.
Yeah.
But if it's every single girl or on the reverse side, every single guy, and someone's like, hey, you can't hang out with this guy. I don't like him. And then the next guy that she's like doing schoolwork with or something.
Right.
You can't hang out with this guy. I don't like. Then it just
Right.
becomes a problem
And-
of where basically you can't hang out with
you
anybody.
stay seeing the clowns like screenshots where it's like, hey, are you awake? And it's like, yo, this is my girl's phone. Like, what are you
hate
texting
that.
for? It's like,
I hate that.
I wanted the notes for tomorrow. He's like, yeah, whatever, man. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, dude, like just send the guy the notes and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, sorry, tangent.
Just you're going to in this world, you're as a female, you're not just going to have female interactions. Besides, you might have a boyfriend, right? Besides your boyfriend and his friends, outside of them, you're still going to have interactions with other guys.
Right. If you can't trust them to be, so, like, what are you gonna do when they go to work? You know, and they have male coworkers.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in college. Like, they're going to have male classmates.
Right.
Unless they go to Meredith.
Yeah. I am, you know, as someone who's experienced it, if I am hanging out with your girlfriend, I promise I don't want to have sex with your girlfriend, ma'am.
Yep.
You know,
Nope.
I thoroughly enjoy my girlfriend. I do not want to, be with anyone else. And, I think that Layla feels the same way. We don't want to hang out with you in any other way besides, friendship.
Ditto.
Okay, sorry. Tangent.
It's okay.
What's your... I don't want to be negative on females.
That's why I was trying to avoid.
Yeah, but
negativity.
what's your biggest pet peeve for a female?
Oh boy. All right, you just gotta keep in mind that Rachel is a listener. No, just kidding. But in general, my biggest pet peeve for females, in general, is probably. I mean, it could be the friendship thing. It could go back to just like not communicating with friends, and it could go back to that. But I don't want to be repetitive.
I mean, well, you can phrase it in like a communication issues thing because, even in relationships that can be a thing. Not saying that Rachel is a bad communicator. I'm sure she's excellent.
Oh, she's excellent. She's awesome. The only other thing I would say is, over exaggeration.
Yeah, I love Layla calls me a drama queen. I just freaked out because you put buffalo sauce on your French fries, so I can't. Are you saying that they freak out over things, or they are hyperbolic when they're telling stories?
The stories, and not Rachel. Rachel doesn't really tell like necessarily hyperbolic stories. Every once in a while, but just hearing any females interact with each other. If you've ever heard two females talk with each other that don't really know each other and they start telling stories.
Oh yeah.
It's not general. It could be different. There's different females, but a lot of times those stories just don't seem like they're 100% accurate. And the other one believes it as 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this person definitely did. It was definitely literally the worst thing that's ever happened to them in life.
I think my biggest pet peeve is, like, Instagram addictions.
Oh God, yeah. Sorry, that's up there.
That's
I didn't think about that.
And that's pretty universal. Girls stay on Instagram, and they will go on one trip for 2 weeks, and they will post pictures from that trip for 3 years.
I just wanna check the last time I've even posted a picture. Let's see.
And it's like it's kind of like an obsessive like thing with
December 5th, and before that, October 3rd.
Yeah, it's like obsessive over image. And
yeah,
like,
that's what.
It's like they're showing off for, and I know that they're not like, most girls aren't like, oh yeah, I'm showing off for guys to look at me, but it's like, it honestly seems like girls are showing off for other girls.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like, I'm better than you.
Yeah, like, look what I'm doing. Me and my boyfriend, or me and my friends, we went on a cruise, or we went to a concert. Haha, look how much fun we had. We had way more fun than you did. Yeah, the last picture I posted was May 19th.
Wow, you got me beat.
Yeah, I don't post on Instagram, so
I really don't. And I feel like I lose followers because I'm not active enough.
yeah, it's whatever.
And I could not give
But that's the thing, man.
a shit.
Like I think these things are supposed to be, and when they're done right, they're supposed to be for you. These are my pictures. I enjoyed them. I wanted to share them just because I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
Yeah.
This is it. It's not like, oh man, let me spend hours editing
Yes.
so I look like the coolest I can look. That just seems obsessive. And then like obsessing over likes and stuff like that. Like honestly, I'm just gonna start. I want to start just like hashtag make Instagram casual again.
Yeah. You know what? My biggest pet peeve, not just females, just anybody that will delete a picture because it doesn't have enough likes in the first like 5
minutes,
hours
yeah.
or whatever. God. Like, then you obviously only posted the picture for other people to like it, and you're begging so much for people's approval that you can't even keep it up there.
Yeah.
So do you even like the picture, or do you just like the number of likes?
Yeah, you just like the attention. Wow.
Wow.
Getting deep.
Yes. Okay. This has just been kind of a thing that I've seen a lot on Twitter, and I don't really know if I have an opinion about it, but females proposing to guys. What do you think of this? 'Cause I've just seen it a lot on Twitter. It's a new thing. Just want to have your opinion on that. I'm not really sure if I have one.
Well, females proposing to males. I'm not gonna be someone who's like so old fashioned and says like, that's just not how it's done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that that's a custom for a reason, and I think that there still is like an expectation of males to be somewhat of a protector and provider to an extent. Like I know that females don't need protection and they don't need to be provided for, but the role of a father in a household and the role of a husband in a household is one that is protective. I think that's just male disposition genetically, and I think part of that is the male in the relationship deciding that he is prepared to take on that.
That's how
commitment.
I feel about it.
Yeah.
I think as much as there's plenty of girls that aren't faithful around the world, but definitely guys have more commitment issues than girls. In a general sense, I mean, that could be completely false.
It's a cultural thing too. Yeah. Like, and I'm not saying that it's right, but like the cultural thing is, girls plan their wedding from being like a little girl. They're looking for like Prince Charming, and like once they found, it seems to me like once that a girl has found, a guy they really like they're in it.
Right, but it's not. But for them, and generally also girls have a little more insecurities than guys sometimes about commitment, and that sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not. It varies relationship to relationship, but essentially, if I'm a girl that thinks I found the right guy, I don't want to get on my knee and propose to him, right? I want him to prove to me that he is the right guy by like saying, hey, I can commit to you for the rest of my life.
And as part of it, and again, it's like a cultural thing, but it's kind of like females. It's like the feeling of being wanted and being chosen. Yeah. It's like when a man proposes, it's like, you're the one female that I think I would want to spend my life with. Yeah. And I guess you could argue, females are saying you're the one man that I want to spend the rest of my life with. But I don't know.
And in my opinion, it gives females way more power.
Yeah.
Like they can say yes or no. Like they get to decide. Yeah. And then on top of that, when you have to propose, you have to like figure out when's the right time. Is it too early? Is it too have I waited too long? Does she like me enough? And then you could say reverse for all of those things. I'm sure.
But I mean, I don't have a real opinion on it. I guess every relationship is unique, and if that's your relationship, do you? Absolutely. It's not something that I would personally be comfortable with.
Yeah, neither.
But, if Rachel wants to propose to you, Riley, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But Layla, I'm sorry, don't propose to me. I'm gonna say no just so I can propose to you back. Okay, last little thing. What's your most look for quality in a female that you were gonna date? So, like when you're courting a lady, and you say, "Oh, she does this. This is, or she has this." I'm gonna, this is the girl that I'm willing to date.
I would say sense of humor, and then it's not really, I don't know if this is a quality or not, but my ability to just be my weird self,
Yeah.
because I'm kind of weird guy, but
Buffalo sauce on your arms.
right,
Fries, yeah.
right. To my ability to just be myself completely around her, and her be like herself around me,
So,
but
yeah.
but her being like completely okay with that, and not like some girls might be like, "Oh, this guy's not cool. He's weird." Like, this guy's like not even cool.
Yeah, he has this podcast. It has like 10 listeners.
Yeah,
and he really loves
like
it.
he likes doing this podcast like with this guy named Adam, and like I just think it's weird.
Yeah,
Like,
I get that. Being comfortable around one another is a big deal. Again, it's not like a quality that a girl can have. It's just like a click thing, I think.
yeah.
I think the ability to communicate with one another.
Yeah.
This really came into play last week with me and Layla. We had a little spat, but it wasn't anything serious because she was open and honest, and she said, you did this and it made me feel like this, and a girl that can, and I realize how difficult it is to like say that you are upset and say that someone else hurt your feelings, and especially and to go and tell that person and to address that issue. I mean, I think that's unique. Communication skills where you can really talk and air grievances without feelings of being scared of what they're gonna say, and like being scared they're gonna get angry and lash out. I hope that's a reflection of how I've treated her and her feelings. But I think having a girl that's open enough to, talk about genuine feelings and address problems in an appropriate way, I think that is, when I'm looking for a wife, that's sort of things.
Hashtag wifey.
That's sort of the things that I look for.
I agree. Communication. Big key, big facts.
Major key alert.
Yes. Go back to when DJ Khaled was like famous for that. That was a weird time.
He's still famous, man.
Famous for that though.
That's true. His Snapchats or Instagram stories or whatever they were.
Yeah,
Of him
Snapchat.
like working out.
Yes.
Major key.
Yeah.
He worked out for 4 years and never lost a single pound.
Yeah.
All right, man. You got anything else on your chest? You got anything you want to talk about?
I think I've talked about enough. I just want everybody to go try Arby's fries and don't listen to Adam. And
Or you can
it'll
listen to
change
me
your
and have
life.
a good meal. Yeah, guys. Like I said, go follow us on Twitter if you like something and you want to hear it again, or if you dislike something and never want to hear it again, or you just have something you want us to talk about. We'd be glad to do the research and address it on the podcast. Sports and stuff on Twitter, SP0RTS, the letter N, and the word stuff. Follow us. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.